बाहर साहब को जुर्माना कर दें.
शाहजमान साहब हम लाइव हैं, स्टैंड बाय प्लीज.
स्टार्ट करें.
जी क्यों?
ये हाल है एक दो लोग. In the name of God, whose mercy is profound, whose kindness is forever, thank you very much, dear all, for coming today, even after the rain and even during the rain. Today we have with us Mr. Thierry. He was former professor at Sophia University, Japan. Sophia University is considered as the oldest Catholic university in Japan. He is with us today, and I hope we will learn a lot with him, inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for welcoming me today. I'm very honored to be with you. It came a little as a surprise, and slowly after a few days of discussion, it was decided that we would think together. And I had to start somewhere. It is always difficult to think together when you do not know well to whom you are talking. So today it will be our first encounter, and I had to find a way to begin that conversation, and it is one of the topics that have been for me extremely important topics in my research, dealing with what happened during the 20th century, which was the study of the brain. First time in the West that scientists were beginning to study the human brain. And what happened during that period is that many scientists began to confuse brain and mind. So everything was brain. We were chemical entities. All what we were doing were controlled by the brain. So we were automats. Until those same scientists started to realize that something was missing and reintroduce the study of the mind and try to understand that human beings cannot be reduced to their mind. And scientists also started with philosophers to negate a certain number of what I call neuromyths. In neurology, very simple theories about left brain, right brain, and all that those type of research that you've heard about, and this type of way to translate very complex research into easy theories that can be used by ordinary people. Usually it does not work, and it is quite important for us not to be too dependent on those neuromyths. So today I would like to start a simple reflection on brain-mind with you, and then you can help me with your questions. This is something that I've always told my students. Answers are not very important, but good questions for scholars is what is really the most important. So if I can help you to formulate some questions today, that will be nice. One of my specialties is Japanese Buddhism, and I've been studying Japanese Buddhism for about 40 years. And when I began, I was interested by a set of basic statements telling me that helping others is extremely difficult. And this is something that has been foundational for the Buddhist traditions for a little more than 2,000 years, is that helping someone is extremely difficult, which is not exactly what European would think and what many would think. It seems easy to help others. So I was wondering why for them it was so important to have that starting point. And their starting point was that our minds are affected by all kinds of processes that make us usually entangle others rather than helping them. And the Buddhist tradition, especially the Mahayana tradition, the larger vehicle, have spent a lot of time, and the scholars have spent a lot of energy studying the mind and how we think and how we can purify our thinking processes. And in the 20th century, Western research, Western philosophers also started to reflect on the mind, and those different traditions started to merge. They studied Buddhist sutras and commentaries on the mind. So I will start today with something that is probably for you much too simple, much too basic, but again, I need a starting point to listen to your questions. So what I've prepared to you for you today is first to be aware that at present scientists are agreeing that our thinking process is extremely complex. Contrary to what philosophers in the past thought, it's not a straightforward process. It's in fact at least 7 modes of thinking that are constantly combined, and the end product of that is each one of you has a very unique way to think. We do not think the same way. We all have something very unique, and this creates some problems of communication. This creates some problems when we start to think together. And again, what my Buddhist teacher were telling me came back to my mind is that yes, it is difficult to think together if we do not have a certain understanding about how those thinking processes work. So today, be patient with me. I would like to briefly look at 7 modes of thinking. The idea there is that on a monthly basis, it's quite important, especially for scholars, to have a certain understanding about the quality of their thinking process, to see if some aspects of their thinking processes are not neglected, if they are able to maintain a certain balance in for the different modes, and allow those different modes to combine themselves to deal with a contemporary world where, in fact, our brain, I turn to the brain, our brain is aggressed by all kinds of modes of communication, information or misinformation, datas, stresses that on a daily basis are affecting the way our brain is working and affects in turn our thinking processes. So my first point is that our mind is extremely powerful and has a potential to affect the biology and the chemistry of our brain. It has also a power to affect our organs, to affect our body, and to affect our external world. So the mind is an extremely powerful tool, and many of our contemporaries are not fully aware of the fact that, for example, if they use properly their minds, they can generate brain cells, affect the chemistry of their brain in a more positive way. And if their mind is not working properly, on the contrary, not only this will affect their brains, but will also affect their health, and the body will react in a way that is problematic and will not allow survival. So, as for me, what is interesting in those present research concerning the mind is that we have now a certain number of tools to evaluate the quality of our thinking. And the first mode that I will emphasize today is that intrapersonal mode, a mode that is often neglected in our contemporary world. But I suppose that for you who you have a rhythm of 5 times of prayer a day, you can take some distance from your daily life. You can look at what is going on in yourself. You have that tradition. So I suppose that for you, that intra-personal mode of thinking is something that you have managed to balance and energize. So the intrapersonal mode of thinking is to have a certain sense of how I process on a daily basis all the information that I receive. Not everything is important. Not everything should be valued the same way. So when I look at how my intrapersonal mode of thinking works, what do I value? What is on my mind constantly obsessing me? And is it really what I should stress? Or do I need to take some distance from that and affect that mode of thinking a little differently, so that I am less stressed, less obsessed by things that are happening in parts of the world, that whatever I do, I will have no effect on a short term on that. So can I start concentrate on what really matters for me in my local world and in the world I'm really connected to? So you can look at it afterwards, but here we develop a possibility to make choices, and radical choices for what is going to affect our daily life and how I'm going to enrich the relationship I have with others. The second mode of thinking is an interpersonal mode of thinking. I don't know if you have the same problem in Pakistan, but for us in Japan, we have about 1/3 of our students at school who do not want to go to school. So they stay at home. And they stay at home because they have problems with relationship. They prefer to be alone. And this is a tendency all over the world to have more and more children who cannot really function in an ordinary type of relationship. They feel harassed, they feel insecure, and they prefer being with themselves. They use contemporary technology for their courses. And so the interpersonal mode of thinking is something that we might want to stress, is that am I able, and this is today my difficulty because I don't know you, am I able to have a certain sense of how those with whom I am related to live? Are they in a good mood, bad mood? Are they eager to study, not to study? Whatever. Are they ill? Do I have a certain sense of what is going on with those that I encounter? This is quite important because if I'm good at it, I realize that, okay, today he's in a bad mood, so I'm not going to trigger a certain number of things. I'm not going to ask questions. I'll wait a little until the mood changes. It sounds simple, but in our ordinary life, a good part of our problems come from the fact that we do not care about what is going on with the other. Our interpersonal mind is reduced to very little, and we consider others as objects. And I have the right to impose my mode of life to others, whatever is going on in their lives. So to develop those two intrapersonal and interpersonal modes of thinking are quite important in our contemporary world, because very often those are two modes of thinking that are undereducated and creating quite a lot of problems. The third mode of thinking is the linguistic one. I would like to be able to speak in Urdu with you, but unfortunately I cannot. This will transform the way we think. Language are extremely important for communication. And in our contemporary world, not to butcher the language of the other, to make an effort to speak well the language of the other is an extremely important training. So the linguistic mode of thinking is also quite important for all of us. We understand in a way of or another the importance of a mother tongue, where there are nuances in the vocabulary, in the tone of voice, in the grammar, and so on, that allows a relationship and a mode of thinking that is extremely rich. I have listed for you the new kinds of scientific research that are done on language, the semantic, the phonetic, syntax, pragmatics, those sciences that evolved in the 20th century and became extremely important subjects of research. I have realized that in Pakistan, in fact, you have many languages. And not only English and Urdu, but also quite a lot of local languages. So I suppose that for you this is an extremely important topic. And at school, how to deal with the linguistic problem and the linguistic mode of thinking, so that at a very early age, students are aware of the importance of language. One of the our contemporary technology is giving us all kinds of very interesting possibilities. Unfortunately, one of the effects of contemporary technology is to affect the quality of our languages. And it becomes, you're very surprised to see that young students are not able to write a grammatically correct sentence. Even if grammar is always an evolving science, still there are some basic structures of a language that when they are not respected, the quality of communication is gone. And we find ourselves in a contemporary world where we are using international languages and we have a lot of difficulties to communicate. Something like the United Nations or larger organization are completely ineffective because most of the time the members are not communicating, not understanding. They understand the basic grammar, the basic words. There is no communication, and the linguistic mode of thinking is not very effective. So we go on, again, evaluating in my each one of us where I am with do I have time for an intrapersonal, to evaluate my intrapersonal mode of thinking, and do I have time to withdraw from the noise of society and concentrate on myself and listen to myself. To evaluate the relationship I have with others. Am I constantly angry? Am I constantly upset? Am I constantly stressed when I am with others? And how much effort I am making to enjoy a language, enjoy the poetical dimension of a language where I'm able to play with the sounds, the words, the grammar in a very human way and in a very beautiful way, to enhance a level of communication that I don't have usually if I don't use poetry. And where am I in my usage of languages? The fourth one, this one is quite stressed in our modern societies, is the logical and the mathematical mode of thinking. I said it is stressed, but at the same time, you realize that there is a good part of the world population that is very weak when it comes to developing a logical mode of thinking. A lot of our contemporaries will switch to an emotional mode of thinking and will refuse or will refrain from using a more logical, systematic mode of thinking. The mathematical mode of thinking is also very important. If we think, for example, of an entity like Pakistan, how do you imagine Pakistan? Do you have a mathematical mind that is able to see the connections in that complexity are you able to see a model? And this might be a difficulty you have. I've been here for 2 months, so my generalization are meaningless. Still, I like listening, and I encounter a lot of it's not always very clear for me what is that model. What kind of image is popping into your mind when the word Pakistan is pronounced? The logical mode of thinking is an extremely powerful mode of thinking for our contemporaries to solve very important problems. Again, my examples are much too superficial, but I am experiencing, since I arrived in Lahore, floods. I go out, it's raining, and the first time I went out and the street was covered with water. When you come from Japan, this is not exactly what you're used to in a big city. My question is there a logical thinking at work? Meaning that how are you going to solve the problem? And how do you create the logistic to solve the problem? This is a very abstract process that is going to engage millions of minds to work together and solve a problem that, to my amazement, was solved 2,000 years ago in Taxila, for example. Where the Greeks and other invaders have created cities, and the way they created the cities is quite remarkable, to the point that I was looking at an altar of one of those temples that have been 2,300 years ago. And UNESCO, to protect that ancient altar, a stone altar, had put a roof on the top 10 years ago. And the roof is already leaking and destroying the altar under it. So here you have a structure that has been there for 2,300 years, was protected by the way the city was created, and UNESCO, who pretend to protect and to, I don't know really what they are doing, but are not able to make a very simple structure that will last for a few decades to protect extremely valuable production of our ancestors. So that logical thinking, when it's combined with the other modes of thinking, is extremely important in our contemporary setting. The next one is, for me, extremely important and very often neglected, the kinesthetic. And this has to do with the fact that we have a body, that we are biological entities, that we are connected to nature, to the world around us. And this is the larger body. And our mind is fully aware of that, fully aware of our digestion, of all how our heart is working, and so on. And in our contemporary world, when we spend a lot of time in front of a desk, looking at a screen, and when exercise is becoming less and less, or extremely artificial, we go to the gym, We go to a strange place which is not really enhancing the mind and the thinking process, but we need that in order to maintain a certain level of health. How our thinking process is taking into account that we have bodies. I was talking with some of you. I like when I arrive in a new place, I go somewhere, I sit and I look at people walking. And it's interesting to see that in the city of Lahore, you have a lot of individuals who have a lot of difficulties just to walk. Just to go up on a pavement. It's an entire effort that is going there. Bodies that are overweight, with my eyes that are not used, have a sense that it is not fully healthy. And you have a lot of pharmacies in Lahore. It's quite surprising. And when you enter in those pharmacies, it's very easy to buy all kinds of medicine. And strangely enough, the real medicine that are used for illnesses are relatively cheap compared to the rest. So you have access to a very powerful medicine. And you wonder why, because most of the time a certain sense of your body, of your life, the way to handle your life and so on, that thinking process is much better than medicine and is able, the mind has a tremendous power to cure our diseases, but we find ourselves, on the contrary, creating diseases. So that, again, for children, this is also something extremely important to train and to evaluate. What is the quality of my kinesthetic mind? Am I aware of what is going on with my body? You have the chance in Islam, when you're praying, you're using your body. And if you don't have a minimum of health, it's very difficult for you to pray. And this, I see that as something extremely insightful, extremely positive, to maintain an awareness of my body on a daily basis. At the same time, I'm aware that your diet is a traditional farmer's diet, so it's very rich in meat, in oil, in so on. And my stomach was quite surprised when the first days when I arrived. Now I'm used to it, but it was quite surprised. So my kinesthetic mind was at the beginning at work to find a way to deal with your customs. The musical module of thinking is not just about music, though here in Pakistan, again, 5 times a day, you have a sound in all your country. And we are used to that sound. And this is that module, that mode of thinking that is there. There is a noise of the city, a noise of the family, a noise of my working place, my studying place, the place where I pray. I'm aware of the sounds that are there, the rhythms that are there. And when our musical mind is able to make us aware that there is some danger when a city becomes very noisy, when you begin during the night not to be able to sleep because of the noise. So our musical mind is able to help us to find the right rhythm, the right sounds for our ordinary life. I'll finish with the visual and spatial module, which is an easy one. It has to do with our imagination. And imagination is what gives us narratives, what give us history, memory, all that aspect of our thinking process. How do we create our memories, and how those memories are helpful for the quality of our contemporary thinking process? Or do I have to revisit those memories, affect them, transform them, purify them? This world of imagination and is extremely important in our contemporary world, because we find ourselves imagined by others, meaning that we are watching movies, we are looking at all kinds of short videos on our cellular phones or on other modes of technology, we are watching TV, we are a lot of images are created by something else. They are not self-generated. And they are less and less in relationship with the natural world. It's always filtered and transformed by by technology, and an imagination that is rooted in the landscapes of a country, the vegetation of that country, the animals of that country. It creates a very rich imagination, very creative. That creativity in our contemporary world is challenged, and this is also something that I should evaluate from time to time, how my imagination is working, and what is there in my production. So I will conclude with 2.1 has to do with artificial intelligence, and this is a new factor coming in between brain, mind, and allowing us to again look at our mode of thinking and see that we have now a younger generation that is not able to produce a sentence without having that sentence translated into self-created artificial language that has become the norm. Who is deciding that that is the norm? I don't know. But mistakes in a sentence, errors with the grammar reveal some aspects of our thinking process, and it's pretty precious. Now we have less and less the possibility to really communicate. Our form of communication are standardized, and my presence in the text I have sent is not there anymore. So those are important questions that for us who discover that new tool should be aware of. The last point has to do with, in all our religious tradition, this dimension of spirituality. Spirituality is the mind. And religious traditions have, in fact, put a lot of emphasis on the mind and training properly our mind. So in our religious traditions, this is an aspect of our religious tradition that we could look at again and enjoy a little more how our religious tradition and our spiritualities and spiritual exercises helping us to enhance the quality of our thinking process. So this is my starting point for communicating with you. Now I'm open to your questions.
We have 2 mics for questions. If you have any question, you can raise your hand and Abdullah will bring the mic to you. Somebody is ready to ask him.
First of all, I really loved how you represent our culture by wearing our traditional suit. And the question is, I read somewhere on the internet a few days ago that at the time of your death, your brain tries to help you to find the solution, but as he never been in that kind of situation, that's why he doesn't know the right solution to help you. So because of that, he replays all your past in front of your eyes in order to help you. And because of that, often people see their past in front of their eyes. Is that true?
Yes, so memories. You're
Memories.
dealing with the role of memories for human beings and for our thinking process. So this is mainly the seventh mode of thinking, where history, memory is generated. And a good part of our body and what I call our animal energies, for example, when you get angry, this is not really our mind functioning, or it is not a result of our thinking process. Our animal energies are trying to protect us, and the memories are always connected to our animal energies, and when we trigger them, it can be associated with love, with very positive characteristic that will enhance the interpersonal relationship, but it can also be connected with elements that are protecting us very often in the wrong way, and creating a lot of difficulties and annihilate the possibility for a creative imagination. So memories are at the same time very helpful, but also something we need to regularly purify. And for the Buddhist, this is something they have worked on. They have realized, to their surprise, very, very early on, that human beings are keeping memories, and those are really something that is transmitted from generation on generation, not so much externally. It is part of what is going on in the thinking process. And some events that happened sometimes 400 years ago, 500 years ago, suddenly resurface in a generation and create very powerful, violent reactions. And most of the time, those who are affected but are not aware of what is going on. It's too late. It's already, the violence is already expressed. So to know well our memories, to have a certain sense that we have a subconscious, and that we don't really know what is there, but regularly our thinking process is able to give us a certain understanding of what is really affecting that subconscious. So dealing with our memories, our very deep memories, is also something extremely important in our education, and to be aware of the type of memories that I value. Not all memories should be valued. Some do not operate well in our contemporary world. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. You can. She has a question, so I'm going to give her the mic. Okay. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Sir, my question is, most of the people often encounter this problem that they lack decision making.
Decision making.
Yes.
Yes.
And they, whenever they are about to make some decision in their life, they encounter a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
Like they are continuously thinking about the consequences or outcomes that are going to come along with their choice. So how do we train our mind to have a good decision making power, or to encounter anxiety or procrastination, things like that?
Very good. First of all, I would say our brain and mind are in that sense very helpful. When you feel anxiety, don't immediately bury that, or don't attach to that negativity. Most of the time, your body brain is protecting you, is informing you that there is a danger. And so first of all, embrace that. What is triggering that anxiety? And so you look at your life, you look at your 7 mode of thinking, you evaluate what is going on. Very often we have difficulties to make decision because we do not have enough information, enough data. And our thinking process is aware of that, and it's generating anxiety because I do not have enough elements to make a rational decision, or to logically arrive to what could help me to make a decision. So in decision making, to make sure that you have enough information for making that decision is very important. There is a deeper problem which has to do with, I don't know if my terminology is the best, but which has to do with culture. If I do not have the sense that I am rooted in something, whatever it is, that I have a certain identity that is not floating somewhere, or that is not the result of what my parents want, or but it's rooted in a certain cultural coherence. It becomes extremely difficult to make decisions, because I cannot imagine the future. And my mathematical mode of thinking is becoming very, very weak. I cannot create a model, and I do not see myself in that model. Even if I have one, I do not fit in that model, creating all kinds of disconnection in my thinking process. So I call that dissonance. Our musical brain is extremely sensitive to those dissonances. I have a sense that things are not coming together. So anxiety in itself is not negative. It's a sign that my mind is giving me, so that I can look at what is going on in my thinking process that is generating that anxiety, and finding data, rethink my position in the world, in my society, rethink the model I have created, and from that find more peace to end up with a decision that I'm satisfied with. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, sir. First of all, thank you so much for being here and teaching us. So my question is, do you think that our heart and brain have a relation, between each other? Because here in Pakistan, I don't know what people say in Japan and other world, but most of the time we relate our desires with our heart, because most of the time we say that our heart wants to have a lot of money, our heart wishes to have to do something, even if we want to congratulate someone, we say hearty congratulations. So do you think, where does that desires and our inner desire, our inner wishes comes from? Does those come from brain or heart? Because whenever there are bad desires, coming our inner side, our conscious, our mind brain always, oppose that bad desire logically and rationally. So is there any connection between heart and brain, and where does that actually desire come from?
So the category heart is quite problematic category in the sense that it's probably used in our common languages. And why? Because the beating of my heart changes, and my mind is aware of that. And sometimes my brain will affect the beating of my heart, so that my mind becomes aware that there is something going on. So this category of heart is easy to understand. As far our thinking process is concerned, it's a difficult category to use. And so in cultures like Japan and our part of Asia there, scholars have a word where heart-mind are combined. So they are aware that there is an aspect of our mind that is related to the way our organs function, the way our heart beat, and so on. So still, Is this affecting our thinking process as such? I have some question there. So when you say heart and brain are connected, definitely. How are heart, brain, and mind and thinking processes connected? So that's for me. Now, listening to your question, I will come back to what I've called animal energies. Is that we find ourselves with, and I call them animals because it's easier to understand that we have in us horse-like energies. Suddenly we can gallop with. We are very free. We have also, and you see them in Lahore, donkey energies. They listen, they are very patient, and so on. You have also in Lahore camel energies. Camel have that characteristics is that they can stay for a very long period in the desert. And I have in myself animals' energies that can maintain my life, my thinking process in very difficult contexts. I have those animal energies that are protecting me. The other aspect of camel energies is that it allows me to go through very narrow paths. To come back to your question about decision making. Decision making is a very narrow path, and I need concentration. I need, and my body generates those camel energies that allow me to go through those difficult moments. And I have like that all kinds. You can map them yourself, see how you function. Each one of us is a little different. But regularly you find yourself overwhelmed by certain energies. They come from your subconscious, and they suddenly paralyze you or overwhelm you. And we better know them. So those animal energies is what I would put very close to the heart and to the heart brain. And our thinking process itself is able to control those energies and is aware of them. Those are at times signs that our body, brain is sending to us, and those are very important signs. But the thinking process is able to control and affect those energies. If I know well how to use my mind, I will not get angry. Because at the moment those energies are coming up, I know how to transform them into another type of reaction, another type of energy. So my mind is very good at that. I'm not controlled, fully controlled by those animal energies and by the brain. My mind, on the contrary, can affect my brain, can affect my animal energies, use them well. This requires a very deep awareness of where am I. If I start to neglect the quality of my thinking process, then I'm governed by emotions. And in Lahore, is fantastic to be in a car. And to see how people in Lahore use their animal energies. It's really amazing to see that they can come to a millimeter next to your car, and there is a genius there that a mind has difficulties to absorb, but those animals' energies can be very helpful. Still, we are also aware that if we are not in control, we become violent. We do acts that we regret because we have been completely controlled. By that, our thinking process was too weak to generate out of those energies something that enhance the interpersonal and enhance the quality of our thinking process. Yeah. So again, heart is present in many cultures as an important concept. I have a sense that for our reflection on thinking processes, it's not always an easy concept to deal with. Yes. Mm.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was very enlightening to know that there are so many modules or kinds of
Yes.
modules
Yes.
related to our mind. I wanted to ask that do these all modules coexist?
Yes. They
And
do.
the second thing that how should we train our mind?
Yeah.
Is it unlearning or is it awareness that we should first look into?
Mm.
And how can we train our children? Because it is very important what we have not learned in our childhood. Now we want to make our children to think like that.
Mm.
So what is the process? What is the foundation of it?
Very good. This is, in fact, for me, an extremely important question, and this has been on my mind for a long time as far as educating the younger generation, especially children from the age of 5 to 7. In most cultures, this is a critical age. Most societies should have the best possible education and the most encompassing education during that period. The rest is less important for me, but this is the time where those modes of thinking are starting to be coordinated, and the mind has the possibility to coordinate the complexity of the thinking process. So yes, thinking processes are extremely complex. This is the minimum of complexity, and it works together. So each time you are in this room, those 7 modes are at work, and not one of us has the same perception, the same thinking process about what is going on here today. We are not far away, but each one of us has a very unique way to perceive the moment and to think the moment. So our children, is the same for our children, is that my starting point is that each one of our children has a very unique thinking process. So one of the neuromyths was to think that as far as education is concerned, you had some kind of programs that would work for all children. It does not work. So you need extremely flexible modes of education, because again, each one of us has a different, and usually this is ignored. So what you create is children who pretend to be a certain way, because that's considered by the teacher, by the school, the average. And when you're graded, usually it's a very strange system of grading, where those who get the best grades are very often not those who can use their 7 module of thinking well. They have developed, overemphasized, usually the logical, mathematical, and that's why they go up in the system, sometimes, but less nowadays, linguistic. But the intrapersonal is often a mess. And the others, the kinesthetic and others, is often a mess. You have some genius, but usually it's not what is going on. So my first starting point is I need to learn from my child how the thinking process is going. And conversations are extremely important. In many contemporary cultures, parents and children do not communicate anymore. So children communicate among children, and it's usually online. And it has become international, so the language is very strange. The mode of communication is very strange. So inside the family, communication inside the family and knowing your children, knowing how their thinking process is. Look at the drawings of your children. So much is said in a drawing. And I was in Sri Lanka, I was working with 5 years old, 7 years old kids for very poor families to start a complete training for sustainability. And so to start first to create a healthy environment and waste, finding ways to control the waste, recycle and whatever. Little kids, you give them 20 minutes of input through images and so on, and then you ask them to draw. And then they come and they show their drawings. You realize not only they have understood what you were pointing at, but their mind is extremely creative. They have already seen some patterns, some way of dealing with the problem. Now, each drawing is different. The kids are never drawing similar drawing. That's the fascinating aspect of human beings. And that's one of the most unique animals in this cosmos. A thinking process that is able to generate such a high level of variety. But we want, our education usually wants to give an average or normalize things. There is the good student and the bad student and so on. We cannot really handle the complexity of our thinking processes in an education environment. But we can think about it and we can start to develop modes where those 7 modes of thinking are all enhanced. Yeah. So it's a very general answer to your very complex question. But this is a very interesting starting point for looking, I would say, a simple example. Look at the history books. This is memory. And so how are we dealing with the memory of young people? How are we shaping their memories? And are we shaping their memories in a way that will facilitate interpersonal relationship, memories that will send them back to looking at what is going on in them? And memories that gives them a certain sense of cosmology, orientation in space, and so on. A history book is not neutral. It can destroy the thinking potential of an entire generation by creating a memory that is going to make you hate the rest of the world. We are the best and the others are our enemies. thinking processes can be very deeply affected by that type of process. So I do not think that we have yet the proper tools for affecting our pedagogy. Most of the schools are overwhelmed. And in Pakistan, contrary to Japan, you have a lot of kids. And educating all those kids is a huge challenge because it's a huge financial burden. Your teachers are not paid very well, if I have my information, except for a few private schools, but usually it's a very low salary. You cannot expect too much. So how do I rethink family education, education as a responsibility of our society? This is a fascinating topic. And based on what we know now about our thinking processes, I think we have better tools to help the younger generation. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. So my question is kind of a confusion I am facing right now. When we understand mind phenomena, it's more towards the spiritual side. And then the brain, the neurons, the scientific side. And when you try to understand this, and you see a lot of work by Dr. Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton on placebo effect. And then on the other side, you see the neuroplasticity, how you can, change yourself by doing some specific kind of activities or adopting, some kind of behaviors which can help you create new neurons. So when you go through both the sides, it seems like it's like a tug of war on which side you should lean on more. So what do you think about it? Can we merge it?
I think I have understood your point, and I understand the confusion because this was my confusion when I was much younger and studying at university. What we were fascinated by was the results of all the research that had been done on the brain. And how it functions. Unfortunately, it gave scientists at one point give up in front of complexity and write very simple books for all readers, and it's extremely misleading. The thinking process is extremely complex, and we are just beginning to understand that. So while the scientific study of the brain has done tremendous achievements, the studies about the mind are just beginning. We are just discovering how a human being is able to think. What we know now is that you cannot reduce human thinking processes to a chemical process. It doesn't match. The scientists are aware that something else is going on in a human that produce thoughts and not just mechanical type of. So for me, as far as education is concerned, or research, or our studies, even the way we live our religious life, that research on the mind is for me much, much more important and much more insightful. It is in the making, and we are far from understanding well how our thoughts not only are produced, but are the result of a very complex process. On the pamphlet, I think I've put, yes, in the middle, that it is like our digestive process, and where you have all kinds of chemistry, enzymes, and so on, working together. Each one of them, there is incompatibility, but it managed to work together and produce, give us life and maintain our life. Our thinking processes are also like that. If I was your age, if I was younger, I would be fascinated by those research and would go on trying to contribute to that aspect. Why? Why? Again, we live in a world where we are more and more aware that we have important problems. There is a great generosity. We would like to solve those problems. And very often we realize that we are not very good at it. And that not only we do not solve the problems, but we generate bigger problems. And for generations. So what is going on? What is going on with a thinking process that is untangling, that is something that a long time ago in Hindu teaching and later on Buddhist teaching were really at the starting point of their religious quest. How can we affect our mind so that we think better and we can, whether they were successful or not, that's another story, but they had understood very on the problem. I will add just to follow up with your question, something that is important for me. You have noticed that in Eastern tradition, meditation is something that is quite important. And if you follow the training, you are going to go through very long period, usually it's about 100 days, where you will be asked to focus and concentrate to very deep level, so that you have visited all what you are. And bodily postures are extremely important. The way you pray, the way you meditate, the way you use our body affects not only the quality of your physical body, it affects your brain and in turn affects the quality of your thinking process. So in our contemporary world, how do we find a style of life, whatever it is, that is enhancing the quality of our thinking process, where we see the results. We see that we have a potential for solving problems, not just as individuals, but as a group, as a society. We are good at solving problems. And this would give us a lot of hope in a world where we have a lot of tremendous funds and we are interconnected and so on. We do not really see the results. And at one point, our brain enters into a very strange chemical process that we call depression. And we have not only individuals who are depressed, we have entire societies that are depressed. The problem with depression is that it is chemical. meaning that you cannot reverse it, or it takes for your mind an extremely high level of concentration, and usually it fails. So if the chemistry of your mind is affected to the point that you enter into clinical depression, to get out of that is practically impossible. You can control it, but it will come back at one point or another. Yeah. So this usage of the body and affecting the quality of the functioning of our brain, a healthy brain, and in turn enhancing our thinking process, that will in turn be able to know better how to maintain the quality of our brain and the quality of our body. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. We only have 10 minutes, so if you can keep your answers brief.
I shall. Yes. Sorry.
I think a lot of answers, we would get a lot of answers when you're answering one question. So, sorry. Can you hear me? Thank you so much for your insightful sharing. I have a lot of things going on in my mind, so I'll try to keep it brief to something that I'm personally involved in. Yeah. So, looking at our children, we have about 25 million children, and who are out of school, and they probably will never get the kind of education that we currently have, the system of education. But through AI, probably we have some hope that maybe the information, etc., through the device engagement, and they can probably at least learn something, getting access to technology. But having said that, what do you think? Like for us, we learning all these modes of learning, and for me, yes, I can use it for self-regulation, for self-awareness, for interpersonal skills and communication, etc. But don't you think when humanity is left to its natural state, most natural state, all these things coordinate and come together in a very natural way, in a good environment? And we just need to provide a nice, safe environment, I would say, because we've been in survival mode for as long as we remember, at least our country. But if we can just provide a safe space for everyone, even in the rural areas, they can have their own, sustenance, development, and things going on, natural food, animals, etc. We don't need this kind of, tech education, this kind of advancement like the development countries have. So fortunately, in Pakistan, at least, we are still more, towards the natural side. So that can be a good thing also for us, and because ignorance can be bliss also. Instead of going that route and then again coming back to discovering ourselves, what we need to do to undo the damage that we've done through learning too much, getting too stressed, like you said, going through depression, and too much awareness also then makes us too much conscious of ourselves and others, and it is a burden and stress that we can't bear. So what do you think that keeping people who are already in a natural state, so providing facilities to just keep them that way would be good enough, because they are going to grow, and those of them who think, have a higher sense of thinking, logical thinking, etc., they can come towards, advanced learning and then benefit their societies, communities, etc. And those who have developed this kind of intellectual thinking, they can be the stewards of providing that safe space, work on themselves. They have the duty to do that, and then facilitate them in their living.
Thank you very much. So I'll try to be very, very brief. You understand the depth of the question. I just invite you to think about an aspect of our thinking processes. It is not really possible for the mind to isolate itself. And you understand that one of the difficulties we have in our contemporary world is that we have emigration, migrations, and tremendous migration. Why? This is the mind at work. The mind has been able to see that in the United States or in Europe or whatever, there is a model that is extremely attractive. The mind is unaware of the dangers that are coming from that model. So what you're describing to us now is already an extremely high level of mindly awareness of what is going on in our society. And isolation will not work. So, on the contrary, are we able, you can call that ashram, you can call that whatever you want, are we able to create zones in our society where people can go, where the technology is not there for a while and so on, and we can go back to the intrapersonal aspect and think about what is going on in our lives and what should be reduced. So what you're pointing at is already an extremely high level of thinking processes that have analyzed the difficulties of our contemporary societies. We are reaching, and we cannot return to mode. Returning to the past is not really an option. We have to create a future where our thinking processes are better enhanced. But thank you very much for your remark, because the fact that we are not indifferent to what is going on is for me extremely important. Yes.
We have only 3 minutes, then we will go for namaz. You can ask one question and you can answer.
Yes.
Thank you for gracing us with your presence, sir. So my question is that you said our brain has the tendency to cure diseases. Sir, I want to ask that, is it something that can be achieved intentionally, or does it happen unintentionally? Is it something that can be achieved knowing fully well that I have to cure this type of disease or whatever you are suffering with? Can you please elaborate a little bit on that?
Thank you very much. You know that in most cultures we had, and I think you had those traditions in Pakistan, you call that shamanism or whatever. Some human beings who were aware of how your mind can affect your body. They are the specialists of that, and they can help you to do that. So you go to them, they talk to you. Usually they will tell you you're going to use a set of oils, a certain number of scents, and so on. And all that is affecting your thinking process in a way that cure your body. It is a way of using our mind, so it is intentional. Though it is possible for someone to guide you how you use your mind to cure a particular disease. We know now that certain types of cancer can be cured through intentional thinking. And this existed already. You have that in Sri Lanka, you have that in Africa, you have that, where there is a know-how to give that possibility to the mind of someone who is to concentrate on a problem and to take away that problem. Those researchers are in the making. It's really starting. Western medicine has completely ignored other type of medicine. Western type of medicine is hiding the problem, avoiding to deal with the problem. Why? You have a point. While other modes of medical approach were emphasizing the power of the mind through using a certain number of natural elements that help your mind to concentrate on a problem. Our mind, there are conditions for our mind to heal the body. And this we are understanding that more and more. Yeah.
Thank you very much, dear professor, and thank you very much, our dear audience.
Yes.
Now it's time for namaz and you can go upstairs. I hope we will be able to host you next year as well, inshallah, with more interesting topic. Till then, goodbye.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Those who couldn't ask their question, they can keep their questions in their minds. They can ask as well. We will have